This is just an excerpt from a full episode. If you enjoyed what you hear here, go check out other full episodes, either on YouTube or as part of the podcast feed. Enjoy! Civil War news now. America. The land so desperate to avoid coming up with new ideas, it's opted to reboot an old favourite IP, Civil War. Trump. I mean, do I even need to make a joke at this point? Trump has activated his insurrectionist tribe like a reject shop winter soldier saying his trigger words, I am the Eggman, cuckoo, cuckoo. Now, normally, we have a strong focus on Australia and Australian news, with the occasional diversion into the bizarre or the easily made fun of from other places. But if we have learned nothing else from the past, it is that when America goes to war, Australia follows, eagerly, like that little dog following the bulldogs in the Looney Tunes cartoons, or like a whimpering island nation hoping that the bully will protect us from another school bully who comes for us. Even if it means that we have to do some morally compromising acts as a show of solidarity. Cool. As the perfectly legal election results have led to staunch, some may say delusional, Trump supporters to storm the White House in an attempt to follow the orders of their commander-in-chief.
And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down. Anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Seems civil unrest is the new democracy, or rather, who has the most soldiers, and what do those soldiers say democracy is? Well, that's the definition of democracy now. Yes, that's the definition. After all, language is fluid and words get new meanings all the time. Isn't that right? Irregardless and literally. The violence had one real intention: to halt the tallying of the Electoral College votes to affirm Joe Biden's victory. With a box of ballots coming perilously close to being destroyed, according to Senator Jeff Merkley, in what will no doubt be remembered not as a riot, but rather as a few thousand lone wolf attacks that happened to coincide on the same day at the same time, as there was definitely a fair few of them who didn't really know why they were there. Some being there to get like-worthy selfies for their social media. And to be fair, it is getting harder and harder to get something that will cut through, especially since we started turning against gender reveals. What are we supposed to do now? We're not made out of content. Others were attempting to improve their fitness regime with a new spin on the Presidential Fitness Challenge. And some who just thought it was a great old time out. They were just there to hang out with their buds.
Why did you want to go in?
We're storming the Capitol! It's a revolution!
That delivery is given with less enthusiasm than I've heard people announce that they are heading to pre-drinks. And pre-drinks isn't even the main event. This was the main event, guys. These lone wolves gathered on the Capitol steps wielding flags including Make America Great Again, Liberty or Death, Don't Tread on Me, and the Pro-South Confederacy, all expected messages, if I'm honest, and styles of flags, right? You'd expect the Confederate flag at this sort of march. Others, however, bafflingly, were carrying the flag of the United States, seemingly having forgotten that the U in USA does in fact mean united, making it a gesture so littered with irony it could form the Great Pacific Irony Patch. And these guys, they'd have to go and live there because they are so fond of telling people if they don't love America, then they should leave. And it looks a lot like not loving America to me when you storm the Capitol building. It's a weird time in the piece to acknowledge that we have a similar goal in life, because many of us who ended up supporting, others of us who voted for Joe Biden, didn't actually want him to become president either. We just didn't want the other guy even more. He's the presidential avatar of compromise. His campaign slogan should have been, "I'm sorry too." And he still would have been voted in. He still would have won by an amazing margin. He may even have got more votes. So what happens next? Well, much like Vietnam, Korea, the Middle East, and the Middle East, as America goes to war, so does Australia. As a good ally, and to fulfill its obligations being a NATO partner country, and this being a clear emerging security challenge. Australia will be bound to come to the defence of America from America. But the question is, which America will we defend? No matter which America we choose, someone's not going to be happy. Scott Morrison has yet to directly blame Trump for his continued insistence on being Donald Trump, and clowns like George Christensen are actually defending the violence, whereas Labour are likely keen to throw down with Joe Biden, and the Greens, they have their own old white man that they want to put in power, Bernie Sanders. So it's a bit of a three-way civil war, having a flow-on effect, causing Australians to be drawn into their own little lines of support, causing us to have our own civil war, meaning that Australia and America are now in a war with Australia and America, and furthering the need for NATO countries and partners to get involved, so then they have to decide which political ideology they're going to support, and it's just a whole complicated mess. In the spirit of being nice, a spirit that is definitely overrated in this situation, people are already trying to give him credit for something. Anything, really. In this case, it is the delusion that Trump was the least warmongering president the country has had in years. A statement that in and of itself is not even slightly true, as he came close to unintentionally starting conflicts with North Korea, Iran, and Venezuela. And if the definition of bringing peace is being so bad at starting a war that you accidentally failed to do so is grounds for being categorized as not a warmonger, then I gotta say I am the least warmongering podcast host for failing to pull troops out of the war on Christmas, narrowly avoiding the war on Easter, getting into harsh words and almost causing a war on New Year's, and just barely avoiding the war on Shrove Tuesday. Look guys, it's been a bit of a weird year. Though he might live up to the statement that he often claims that he is like Lincoln.
I said, not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black.
As he will be one of the very few presidents to have caused a civil war. Also, he has a cilia dormant on his head all the time. Got him. After giving a speech in which he said he would lead the march to the Capitol building, he was like the monorail guy, deceiving them with a bit of a song and a dance as he went home and led from the rear, the extreme rear of his Twitter feed. Trump tweeted that Vice President Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done. The only true statement that Trump may have made his entire presidency, as Pence has continuously failed to put a stop to the dangerous actions Trump has brought forth onto the country. These actions have led to 3 of his honorary doctorates being revoked, because I know that you are curious like I was, and I spent a good portion of time looking this up. They were doctorates in business admin, laws, and humane letters, which is generally given to those who have distinguished themselves in humanitarian and development professionalism. So this is completely understandable why they took it from him. But why they waited until 2021, that's the real kicker. I mean, they removed his business admin degree in 2015, but he was still in a business, the business of scamming people. Though, unsurprisingly, the unimaginatively named Liberty University has so far refused to remove his honorary doctorates in business admin and laws. Though education doesn't seem to really be a big concern of his, so losing a few degrees would be akin to the rest of us taking a hard night on the drinks. We might come back a few brain cells light, but it's nothing that we're going to miss really. The real kicker came when Twitter finally permanently banned Trump from the platform. Cries went out over social media as more and more platforms have banned the unhinged former president. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat have all temporarily locked his accounts. Fortunately though, he was also banned from being interviewed on the news, making public appearances and rallies, and addressing an entire nation as its leader. So really, should be a quiet 2021. I do expect, however, that Trump's inevitable TikTok account is going to be a real mess. And I think I'm here for it. I'm not sure. According to Politico, he was scrambling to figure out what his options were. The media outlet said that he hinted that building his own platform might be the one avenue that they pursue in a now deleted tweet from the official @POTUS account. This is a mild swing from where we expected him to go, following the Trump TV plan he floated prior to winning the election in 2016. A Trump social media platform can't be any worse than the ones that we already have. Just a dubious con to exploit its users and enrich the owner. It actually just sounds like the inevitable destiny of a lifelong con man like Trump. Mitch McConnell has called the actions a failed insurrection. And when Mitch McConnell is not backing your undermining of and attempting to destroy democracy, you know you're on the wrong side of history. He did, however, go on to say that the Republicans were already in the middle of their own coup, and this much louder and much more obvious coup is really putting a wrench in their plans. For those asking the very obvious question of where the tanks were at the US Capitol riot, police said that they were caught off guard. Basically, their tanks were in the shop. I mean, they weren't expecting to have to use them until Black History Month in February. Though they seem to have found first gear since then, having achieved the arduous task of identifying people who weren't even trying to hide their identities, were live streaming themselves taking part of the event, and were on the front page of every major newspaper around the world posing for a photo that they will attach to their Eurovision audition tape for the band ACAF. All cops are friends. They have found and arrested alt-right Jamiroquai, Hannibal Lecter, this guy who put his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk and delivered a nasty note that he probably could have just emailed, as it was just as much chance of getting to her that way. This guy who seemed to not realise what time the riot was starting and just threw on whatever he had at hand. And this guy who was photographed climbing this rail that he could have just walked around with, who is apparently his mother, who he was kind enough to give a bulletproof vest to, and who says that nobody gives good Mother's Day presents anymore. And it's just nice to see that he managed to fit in family time while attempting to undermine the democracy of his country. No doubt, a poignant biopic will be made of the two of them titled "Stop the Count, or My Mother Will Shoot."